Hi folks, Jack here. I trust that you're all seeing this well enough. Let me just check here. Could I have some feedback to know that someone's there and you can hear me, B, thanks Malcolm. Can you hear me okay? Okay, people watching, Isabel, Pat, can you also let me know that you can hear me? That would be great. Someone just, okay, someone tell me you can hear me. Okay, I'm assuming you can, all right. Okay, let's, okay, thank you, Neil. Let's get going then. This is, you can see I'm set up slightly differently than maybe I expected. I had done one of these joint live sessions before with some other people, and it was a split screen thing and it seemed easy enough to do. I double checked on how to do it on YouTube and understood it, and then when it came to testing it at 4 o'clock today with Klaus, discovered that in fact it's no longer available. And some people have suggested using Zoom and all the rest of that. I really don't want to use Zoom at the moment because we've got plans for that in another sort of situation. So let me just use this. What Klaus is going to come on in a moment on Skype, assuming everything works fine. You should be able to see him and hear him, and I'll talk to him and we'll tune into one another. So before I bring him on, he's standing by. Just before I bring him on, let me just say this: that each of us has the chance in our lives to meet amazing people, and sometimes not only we get to meet them and befriend them, but actually we might get the chance to work with them. And Klaus is an astonishing MindStore teacher, an amazing, passionate, lovely, lovely man who teaches it from the heart. And then he was building the most amazing business for MindStore in Germany, the German-speaking countries and beyond, working with major corporations, doing extraordinary work. And then he got involved with his very close friend Lothar, you hear about it, and he, along with Lothar and his wife Chrissy and Sabina, Klaus's wife, listen to this, they remortgaged their homes. They managed to get a field in the hills above Stuttgart, and as the film says, build it and they will come. They borrowed everything they could, they ploughed the money in, they ploughed that field, they built a centre, and oh my God, did they come? They came from all over the world, and they're still coming from all over the world. And I've had the privilege of being there and taking part in the regime for my own health, for my well-being. But every time I go there, the people that are there, they're true giants of this planet, fighting their own battle with cancer and other illnesses. So anyway, let me bring Klaus in. You get a chance to meet him if you've never met him before, and of course if you know Klaus, you're going to love to see him again. So let's just see if we can get this going. He should be there in a moment.
Hello.
Hi Klaus, there you go. Yeah, I'm assuming everybody can see you now.
Hello there.
Can we just check, folks, can someone just indicate that A, you can see Klaus, and B, you can hear him? Do you want to say some words, Klaus, just for a moment?
I'm very pleased to be here tonight, Jack. Thanks very much for having me on your Facebook presentation. I'm really looking forward to sharing and talking to you and everybody who's interested in listening.
Fantastic. Okay, guys, could someone just give us one of those little signs to say that you can hear Klaus and see him? Yes, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Barbara. Let's get going then. So I've already introduced you, Klaus, told everybody how wonderful you are, but you knew that anyway. Klaus is a fantastic friend, but his insights and his experience of teaching MindStore and mindsets, and of course dealing with working closely with cancer patients with his amazing team is pretty awesome. So I started this, Klaus, I felt there was a need maybe for a MindStore approach to how we were dealing with COVID-19. A lot of people out there follow me and so on, and I thought I should do something. I did a video, as you know, a few weeks ago. It seems to have gone on ever since, and I've now seen myself doing this for weeks and weeks ahead. Got people lined up to participate and so on. But the first guest had to be you.
That's kind.
But
Thank you.
because of the work you do, Klaus, and because of your experience, I just thought maybe what you could do for the people here who have no idea who you really are, because there's some newbies here, Can maybe tell a wee bit of a pen story, just a bit about how you got involved in MindStore and so on.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good, thanks. So yes, it was 1997 when I met Jack on a MindStore for Business seminar in London. And I knew from that moment on, when I was sitting there, this is something I need to get involved in. And so we kind of like joined forces, and in 1998 I moved back to Germany with my wife Sabine. We both had been living at that point for about 10 years in London, and we started with the first MindStore seminars in Germany.
Yeah.
And it was quite an adventure, because obviously those mind tools and these kind of seminars were pretty scary for some people, especially a lot of left brain, typical engineering type companies. They kind of like were a bit, cautious about MindStore. But we had some great starting points, great companies that eventually joined. I think it took off when Siemens Business Services started doing MindStore seminars on a regular basis. So it all went from there, and we both, Jack, experienced obviously in 2008 quite an interesting shock, because a big crisis, financial crisis. So crisis is not something we're kind of like familiar to crisis, and it seems to be being part of our journey. So we have phases of growth, phases of crisis, and I think MindStore helped tremendously to get through these very tough times. It was obviously more a business crisis in a sense. It was not so much affected by health issues, but nevertheless, it was quite a crisis. And that was actually the key point for me of practicing and understanding what MindStore really meant.
Yeah.
Because you have to overcome crisis. In a good moment, everything is easy. But a crisis, that's the one, And I remember, Jack, we spoke very often on the telephone. I said to you, Jack, what can I do? Nobody wants to do seminars. What can we do? And we kind of like talked a lot about mindsets, about, this abundance mindset and keep confidence up, although nobody said yes. How do you manage that? So it was quite a very interesting learning curve. But at the end now, I have to say, crises are also strengths building. They do help us to eventually benefit from this time that we don't want. We kind of like hate initially the idea, but once you get over that pain and fear, then it eventually becomes quite interesting. So that's when it could also be a chance, an opportunity. And I think it was that way. I think you get stronger out of this. So crisis came, and then finally we also started in 2006 with a seminar center here in Germany for a very specific group of people. It's for people with cancer. And we offer this now for almost 14 years. It's a program where people learn about diet. It's a special diet for cancer. It's detoxification and a lot of mind work, especially finding the cause of cancer and dealing with stress. And stress is a major issue. And there, obviously, relaxation, visualization, alpha state is a key component in that process that we offer here in the center. And so Sabine and myself, we're living now close to Stuttgart, south of Germany, and we have a wonderful dog. Unfortunately, the other dog passed away, but we're still big dog lovers. And I have to say, obviously, I'm half British, so my mother is from England, my father from Germany. We're an odd mix, obviously, being brought up in Germany, but I'm half. So I do understand the English mind a little bit, because I was brought up there as well.
Just as well we Scots understand the English mindset as well, eh?
I have to say, Jack, you're the only one who can say my surname perfectly, because it's the R, it's the Scottish R.
Yes, Pertl.
allows it, because Pertl is a very strange name, you know.
Yes, good stuff. So, Klaus, one of the great experiences I had in my own challenge with my own health. You know, I've been, as you know, fighting something for 30 years, and you know, out of the blue in Glasgow, your very close friend Lothar was coming to Mary Hills. The people from Glasgow and Scotland will know where I am. And he was strangely coming to visit a doctor in Mary Hill, an Indian who was a proper doctor, you know, working out of his surgery in Mary Hill. And he comes there, Lothar comes there, and he brings with him one of the film stars' sisters. I vaguely remember her name, but it'll maybe come back. It's not there at the moment. Yeah. Jane Asher's sister, or something like that. Jane Seymour. And you know, they're coming to see this guy in Glasgow who's doing amazing stuff, you know, complementary or alternative, and dealing with cancer and dealing with all sorts of other things. And because he was there, I went down and I was able to sit in that meeting to see Lothar, and I think it was the first time I met him. And I got the chance to meet this doctor, and we almost got involved in bringing his stuff to the world, if you remember back, because he had amazing Indian sort of herbal remedies for all sorts of stuff, and he was really conquering my situation. I had great faith in him, but it was really sad because someone in his family got the greedy thing on and seemed to be worried about, you know, him giving away his IP and stuff, and all we wanted to do was take it to the world. But and I mean, he sadly passed away after the British Medical Association, you know, striking him off because people reported him, and yet they would choose out of his office for his services in the evenings after his proper surgery. So that was my introduction to Lothar.
Yeah.
And Lothar is your partner in running the centre, yeah?
Yeah.
Do you want to say a wee bit about just that relationship, Klaus?
Yeah, Lothar and myself, we know each other from the age of 14. So we met in a local, it's a handball club. It is something probably not so familiar in the UK, but it's a sports club. And we both met there. By the way, we met also our wives. Both of our wives met in the same sports club. So I know him since the age of 14, and we did a lot of things together. And he worked as a male nurse in a hospital for a long time. And through that, I was very early, introduced to the world of medicine.
Yeah.
And he said many strange things to me that kind of like shocked me a little bit. But because he was on the inside, he could tell me, you know, what went wrong and what went well and what didn't work and what worked. And so very early on, I kind of like was more interested in alternative, in natural remedies, in processes. So from that point, we both had a huge high interest in alternative concepts, natural concepts, I have to say, not alternative necessarily, but natural, holistic concepts. And he eventually moved in a totally different direction. And we both came back about 22 years ago when we set up a non-profit organization that was then called People Against Cancer, because Lothar was kind of like shocked and really surprised that nobody knew at that time anything about alternative cancer therapies. And he said, this is not good because you can only make informed decisions if you know what the alternatives are. But we didn't know it, or most people don't know it, and we said, okay, let's do something about it. And Lothar sold he had a wholesale business, he sold it, and he did full-time People Against Cancer, what it was called then. It's now called Cancer 21, meaning cancer in the 21st century. And he did it full-time. And eventually he realized from his observation that he had to stop asking the professors of the world, the scientists, because there were so many different theories and concepts, and it was confusing. And he went to more than 100 clinics in 30 countries. He was traveling there and visiting all those places. And he then said, let's ask the people who survived cancer what they actually did. And then he asked and interviewed a lot of people. And interesting enough, it was much simpler. It was three things they were doing. About 60% change their diet. We heard basically oil protein, Gerson, cushy, and raw food. So those we always heard. Another about 60% said they did detoxification, which basically means the liver, it's the colon, and it's the pH, so that the acidity in the body. And the third thing, 100% of the people said who basically survived cancer, who were very often final stages, 100% of them said they changed their life. So they did a change, a transformation, whatever you want to call it, but they did change it. And that impressed us. So we said, wow, if there's three things, maybe those three things we should offer as advice to people in that non-profit organization that we all started. But eventually they asked, wouldn't there be a place, or could you imagine setting up a place where you could teach us those three things? And that's when Lothar came back to us, to Sabine and myself, about 14 or 15 years ago, and said, if we would be interested in joining him in setting up that center. And from my point, I was very interested because changing life is about MindStore. It's about understanding futures, creating future histories, and overcoming fears of the past and the heavy luggage and letting go of this. And in cancer, it's multiplied times 10 because there is a big fear behind that illness. So therefore we agreed. And that's when Lothar and Sabine and Lothar's wife, and we came back together, so to speak, to join that company. But he's my best friend, a lifelong buddy, and he's how can I say, he's a very focused person. Once he puts his mind to something, he's really going deep into it. And I'm sometimes astonished how many hours a day he's listening to scientific books and reading things, and he's really extremely knowledgeable, and that's a great asset to have.
Yeah, I think one of the things that fascinates me about Lothar is I've watched him do this in the past. I know he's still doing it. He can appear on a conference platform right alongside real professors and specialists, and he can hold his own with them. And it's like a lot of things that's happening just now, funnily enough, with COVID-19, we're now finding possibly cures. If you dig into what I was suggesting you do on Facebook, you go look at some of the stuff that's going on. The mainstream probably isn't going to look at it because it's a different paradigm. And yet the solution that people are surviving, that's what are you doing? And looking at why they're surviving and what can be done. So it's a fascinating repetition almost of cancer, COVID-19, similar kind of dynamic, but in terms of new thinking and different mindsets coming at it from different angles, which is exciting because there are solutions in it. Increasingly it will get out there. I think one of the things that inspires me about what you've been doing, Klaus, is that you gave up a potentially very lucrative career as the MindStore guy, and you and I already had created stuff together. We'd worked in stages together. At one time I came to Germany, and simultaneously Klaus did the German for me as I was speaking there in English, and that was a great experience. And then, but we also created together, along with Lothar and some other people, we created the First Line in the Sand retreat, and then we had the privilege up in the Trossachs to go there, and at Lendrick Lodge, some of you will know that place, and we did for a whole week, the first ever, and we co-taught that. That was an amazing experience, and again, Lothar was part of that. And so for me, we were just kind of taking off in our potential to work together. And the centre came along, and Klaus gave all of that up. Really he's still teaching MindStore, and he's done amazing things with it. But the draw to do that work with the cancer patients is such a testament. And I kind of lost you to something pretty awesome. And can you maybe share some of the sort of satisfaction you maybe get out of it? Because obviously you've got a passion for it, and you're still doing it after all these years.
Absolutely. Now, as you said, I'm still doing MindStore, and so it's still some wonderful seminars, and people do love it. I mean, the House on the Right Bank is a classic. It's like Mick Jagger, and he has written some of the best songs in the world, and the same is for the House on the Right Bank. So it's definitely up there. What was I think the big reason was clearly this. When you do a seminar with companies organizing it and companies paying for it, they do send their staff to it. And you know yourself, you have probably a typical distribution. 15% are completely on your side, 50% in the middle, they don't know yet, and the other 25% or 35 on the back, they say, why am I here? I hate this, I want to go home. And that distribution
that only too well.
Stay the same over time, especially if all, I have to say, companies send people to seminars. There's a difference if people pay for themselves. That's a different scenario.
Always.
So I realized that very often they would kind of like look at me and say, come on, Klaus, motivate me, it's your job now. I'm here, so you give, and if you're good, I might take something. And I could feel it, so it's basically not a lot of self-motivation to be there. Now, in comparison, if you have people in our center with cancer, they are the most highly motivated people you can ever imagine.
Absolutely.
And they're completely grateful. They're completely grateful for every tip, every idea. They love the idea that they can do something. For them as well, the mind things is sometimes new, and they are sometimes uncertain of it, and the way that, this is basically how I learned it from you, Jack. You have to make complex issues simple so that people get it and they can use it. Anything that's simple, people can apply. And we used the same principle here with the people in the center, and they loved it. And whatever comes back, it is amazing. Now, I do realize, and there's a big difference here, that when people go home from a typical MindStore seminar, it's not about life and death. In this situation, it is very often about life and death. Yeah. And for whatever reason, and I cannot explain it, but it doesn't scare me so much. It doesn't scare Lothar. And if we look at our astrology, I believe that the two of us and with our wives together are a perfect team to dealing with life and death issues. Yeah. Which I find interesting because we joined together, and much later, Andrew did a group analysis for us, and it was exactly that. And it turned out to be true. So that is, I think, the key motivation for doing that. And also, there is a big vision behind it, that we do believe alternative concepts, not just for cancer, by the way, just alternative concepts. Indeed. Have a purpose in life, and they, as you said, they don't get the public attention, they don't get recognition so much, because it is not what the mass, the big group of people are thinking and sharing, and the media is very critical of it. But if we then go deeper and you ask people, what do they think about this? They say, this is the future. This is the future. Yeah. So therefore, it is something that fascinates me from a vision point as well. Yeah. And it is something that is from a social, from environment, from an impact in society. I hope we can really contribute to some degree in changing at least some of the mindsets and making it easier for people to accept it. I'm not saying it's better, I'm not saying it's worse, but I'm saying that it is worth looking at it. And it's definitely has no negative side effects. That's the beauty of it. Yeah. I mean, I think that everyone's kind of entitled to choose their own purpose and their own when they're dealing with their challenges, their own way forward. Of course they are. The big thing is making, as you said, informed decisions, not just limited decisions, but understanding much more. And when you expand your mind, you start looking, you realise there is a wide continuum of possibilities with cancer, and now increasingly with COVID-19.
And the paradigm is stuck and not necessarily making great leaps forward. The traditional paradigm, and yet on the sides of this awesome stuff going on. But anyway, that's for another day. Klaus, one of the things I realised, guys, is in my excitement to get Klaus on and having to change the technology relatively quickly, I don't have my clock in front of me to check the time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disappear for a moment to get my little clock that I use. And while I'm doing that, maybe Klaus, you could talk to the guys and just pick up on some of the things that you think might be helpful in terms of each person tackling their own journey with this COVID thing. You know, whether we're locked down or whether we're, risking ourselves to come back out in due course, or stuff to do in terms of their health. I know there's all sorts of stuff you recommend. So I'll leave you to do that while I go and get the clock, and I'll join again, guys. Okay? Just give me a moment. Cheers.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for that. Yes, excuse me. Now I have to cough. Yes, the COVID thing. It is very much for me an issue of fear. It is definitely a real thing. So it's not something that we could say it's nothing. There's definitely something happening. However, I think the biggest challenge we're facing here is that we are fearful of what could happen to us. And we are very, very fearful of the numbers we hear and the projections we hear. And therefore, this is for me a moment to get real, to look at the real numbers. And as we did with the cancer project, we just really said we're going to look up the numbers ourselves so that we understand what they're talking about. And then once we have the numbers that we've looked up, that we understand, that then we would say, okay, how do we look at the numbers? So let me give you, for example, some numbers here. If we look at the moment at the infection rate, I can only say for Germany, I don't know for the UK, but the infection rate is 0.1% of population at the moment. So that means, if I calculate it correctly, it's 10,000, from 10,000 people, 14 people get infected. Now, that is in itself not an astonishing high number, but it is a number that is real. That's a real number. And in Sweden, where I compared it a little bit, remember our number in Germany is 0.14%. In Sweden, it's 0.08% of population gets infected. Now, that was surprising for me because they have not that strict lockdown situation that we have, for example, in Germany, but they have only half of the population affected. So I'm kind of like thinking, okay, the numbers are a bit strange, but it is not a high number. And then from the infected people, I looked them up, how many people, what age group is affected. And interesting enough, most people in Germany, at least, who is infected, is about 70% are between 15 years and 59 years. So that's 27%. And 27% is over age 60. So it seems that a big proportion of the infected people are at a certain younger age group. And the average infected age is 49 years. Now, if I looked at the death rates, which is obviously, it's not a nice number to look up, and it's weird to do it, but I needed clarity. I had to understand, is this what is really happening? And now I realized that of the people who died, 85% of the people who died were over the age of 70. And the biggest group of that, which is amazing, is 63% are between age 80 and 89. So they're really, really mature people. And the average age of person who died in Germany is 80. The youngest is 28. And he had already another illness. So then I said, okay, so I'm not saying at that point, oh, it's good for me, but I just get the facts. I understand it is a lot of people who are infected never get seriously ill. A small group who gets infected are really strongly affected by it. And then I looked at the illness rates, and then I realized that from the people who died, 49% had 3 other illnesses. I mean, serious illnesses. Very often as heart problems, diabetes, and others. 26 of the people who died, 26% had 2 other illnesses, and 25% who died had 25% had 1 other illness, and only 1% of that whole group had no other illness. So if we look at, we had 2,500 people died. We at the moment in Germany, it's a lower number than in the UK. Only 1% of them had no illness. So then, if I then compare again at this hottest summer we had, and we have very hot summers nowadays, and the hottest summer we had was in July, 23rd of July to the 9th of August 2018. And in that period, so July to August, and it's not very long, it's just 3 weeks, roughly 2 weeks, 8,000 people died from heat. 8,000. And at the moment in Germany, 2,300 people died. So, if I then look at that and I'm thinking, so about 3 times as more people died from heat the last year, that's 2 years ago, and nobody said anything to me, and nobody was concerned then. So I look at the numbers, and the numbers are terrible, but the numbers also indicate something else, that it is a big fear thing. So our government is completely frightened by the prospect of people coming to a hospital and they have no beds for them. Mm-hmm. And because of that, and that is for me not a health issue, that is an infrastructure issue. And that infrastructure issue creates all the fears, and that is for me a little bit shocking, especially if I compare, we have 3 times more people died from heat exhaustion in 2018 than in Corona, in Germany at least.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking, Jesus, what I mean, I'm a realist, if the numbers really say some bad numbers, and that would be really high, I mean, really, really high, I would be the first to agree to this whole thing. But anyway, so I looked at the numbers, and I would recommend anybody who is in a stressful position, in a fearful position, you need to look at the numbers. And Jack, we did the same in 2008. We looked at the numbers. I looked at liquidity from a business point. I said, how much cash do I have? How long can I pay the rent? And it's the same here. Look at the numbers. Look at real numbers. And then I have to make a decision. How do I view that situation at the moment? It is clearly something that is very strange, and it's a never ever seen situation worldwide. I've never ever come across this, that the whole world literally is in shutdown. I mean, this is it's a shock in a sense for everyone, and especially for me, if I look at the facts from that point. Do a lot of people die? Yes, they do, and that is the sad story about it. However, the other thing is for me a bigger shock. It's the fear thing, it's the worry thing, because people are now, I'm not quite sure if you can believe this, but I spoke with Lothar today, and he spoke with a medical doctor in Switzerland, in Lucerne, and he has 40%, he's an MD, a general practitioner, he has 40% less patients in his practice, in his office. 40% less, and he called them because some of them have serious illnesses. And you know what they said? They don't want to come to him because they are afraid if there's something serious, he puts them in hospital, and in hospital they will die on Corona.
Yeah.
And those people have almost heart attacks. So he says there are some people with literally just shortly before a heart attack, and they're fearful of going in the hospital, and they rather stay at home and do nothing. And he believes that cost will be probably bigger than the people who died on Corona. Yeah. What now everybody around that whole fear thing do, fear, and the biggest fear is going to hospital, honestly. They are fearful in hospital, they're going to die now.
Yeah.
And they're not taking care of themselves because of that fear. So it is an amazing fear issue, Jack.
Yeah. So, of course, we tackled fear. I think I alluded to it on our first call, the first live session where I introduced people to tapping to deal with anxiety and fear. And I hope many of you have had a go with that. You're bound to know now how powerful it is. Any other sort of insights, Klaus, to what you would recommend people do just to keep their immune system strong? I mean, one of the things I was listening to today, and I just wish every human being would listen to it, is about metabolic syndrome and their metabolisms, and how the metabolism's out of sync. The people with them out of sync are the ones that seem to be dying from COVID-19. And one of the again, you talk about figures, but one of the things that just fascinated me and is fascinating a lot of people is just one doctor in California saying that of the 26 patients he's had who's died where he's been working with COVID, 25 of them were pre-diabetic and or diabetic. One was 95 years old and he thinks probably diabetic but didn't know. And that's more to do with the metabolism. What we're hearing now is we can reverse out of these things, even just with a few days of changing some things very powerfully. And you do it within all sorts of different regimes, just by removing certain foodstuffs. Our immune system becomes really strong. But anyway, that's for another time. And what I would like to do is see if I can get one of these amazing people on one of the next videos and we can talk to them. But anyway, Klaus, what would you be recommending as a good MindStore man and as someone with all your experience with Lothar, anything you could be recommending that guys do to help their mindset and or to look after their immune system? You know, I've been in the shower the last few days reminding myself what to do, but you can maybe tell the guys, yeah?
Yes, very good. I think, first of all, we need to understand a virus is not something you can prevent. So there is no prevention, there is no, you can't do anything about that. But you can do a couple of things, and I like little things that make sense and they have a high leverage. And the first thing would be, I'm not quite sure how easy it is, but please eat fresh, organic, and very little processed food. Dr. Johanna Budwig was a big fan of the fresh and the organic because in her thinking, energy is what we need from food. So she was into quantum physics, she was a chemist, and she loved that whole thing. And she always said, if you have fresh organic food, you have the highest, she would always call it light energy, light from the light. And it's stored in that food, in that organic food. And so therefore, please don't cook it for 7 hours. Don't put it in the microwave for 20 minutes and then store it again and freeze it and cook it, because then it's completely processed. And there's maybe enough vitamins in there and there's enough all of the other stuff, but it doesn't have light. So Budwig was not about if you eat broccoli. It was about, do you eat broccoli that's organic and fresh and little processed and very little processed? So that's the first advice. If you can, get organic, make it fresh, a little processed, just warm it up a little bit, but don't cook it for hours and hours because then the light energy gets lost. So that's the first idea.
Yep.
The second one is, maybe, I'm not quite sure how easy it is, but go out into the light. And I don't mean into the sun, so it's not sunbathing, but it's going out in the light. We know light carries a lot of energy and vitamin D and all wonderful things. But again, Budwig said, light is what we need, so be in the light as much as you can. I know there's some restrictions, but if you can, be out there. And if you wear glasses, just regular glasses for reading and so on, and sunglasses, please, if you can't walk, if you can't see, obviously leave your glasses on, but then sit down somewhere where you feel safe and take off the glasses, because a lot of light, especially if you're still wearing clothes, goes through the eyes, and the eyes, remember, through the eyes, all of your blood is flowing through your eyes, and the blood takes in the energy. So go in the light. It's 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 2 times a day would be fantastic. If you wear glasses, when you walk, yes, but if you can take them off or sit down and take in the light. You don't need to look into the sun. Don't do that. It's just being in the light. It can be in the shadow. That's completely okay. And the third thing we would recommend is in the morning when you shower, at least I assume that now, most people do shower. If you have obviously your warm shower, which is fantastic and pleasant, and afterwards you finish with a cold one. I know that's a shocker because, as people say, you have to immediately start with the head and the back, and no, don't start like that. You would start at the feet, at the bottom of your legs, and you gently go on the outside, on the inside of your legs, only up to the knees. You do it maybe 10 times the right leg and 10 times the left leg, and then you do the arm side, inside out, 10 times, and that's how you start. And you do this maybe for 10 days, and then eventually you go to the upper arm and to the upper legs, and eventually go to the chest side, and eventually go to the back side. And the cold water, and it's based on a priest called Kneipp. He's a very famous guy, and he did lots of water treatments. And that's a simple thing, but it will activate your immune system. And if you feel you can't breathe properly, that's exactly the effect that you want, because it opens your lungs and therefore more oxygen can go into the blood system. So those three: eat fresh, organic, very little processed, go out in the light, and if you end your shower with a cold water rinse, if you like, and the water rinse altogether takes maybe 2 minutes. It's not longer than that. Eventually you can do it longer. Those three things would just be a super boost to your system, because remember, a lot of people, which is quite interesting, Jack, about 15 to 25% of people in Germany at least are already completely immune against the COVID. I don't know how they got it, because apparently it's a new virus. How can you be immune against that if it's a completely new virus? But apparently they are. So that is the best thing we can do. We support our existing system. Our body system is designed to protect your life. It has the biggest objective is to keep you alive, and therefore it will do anything, but it needs some raw material. And for Budwig it was light, and in this case light through the light, the real light out there, and light through the food, and blood circulation to the cold water. That from a physical point. From a mind point, please don't follow the fear thing. I understand they try to scare us, but remember, 2 months ago in January, December, they scared us with other news. So the media is constantly scaring us. Now they select COVID, and I also watch British TV and all of those news. And they just select that at the moment. Now and then they're showing something else, like there's a fire in somewhere, and that should give us some relief. Or sometimes they show a funny video, but it's still practicing bad news. And it won't change. If COVID is gone in maybe July, August, or an end of the year, I promise you that the media will present us other bad news. So we have to be conscious of, what do we feed our mind? What do we feed our system? And you know yourself, if you feed it with fear and concerns, we will become very fearful. And we completely forget our strengths. And we have amazing capabilities as human beings. And so therefore, don't give in to the fear thing. Do anything you can: tapping, meditation, relaxation, and reduce the watching time of the bad news.
Klaus, just to pick up just briefly, once you get past the working your way up your body for the cold shower thing, I take it now you just do get under the cold shower. You don't do all that any longer.
Exactly.
And how long are you sort of under the cold shower for?
Well, but we would say 5 to 10 minutes. But that's a tough one. But it's a challenge. If you like challenges, you're going to be good with it.
Yeah, I find I'm getting gradually up longer with it. Yeah, and I recommend it. You do feel fantastic. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Anything else, Klaus? Maybe you think people might help folks just to sort of get a perspective from you, particularly maybe around mindset or any other tips.
I completely think what is the purpose of a crisis? It must have a purpose.
Yeah.
And it's the same with bad situations in life. I think they do have some purpose, and it needs sometimes a bit of digging. What is the purpose? And I believe the crisis has a purpose of activating us. Now, in this case, activating us not necessarily to run around and be meeting other people and going to events, but activate us for something. And I think it activates us for clearer thinking, for understanding. We need to look at the causes of all of this. Yeah. If we look at really the issue, Jack, behind all of those viruses, and I looked up the last 7 or 8 viruses, they were every single one of them were transmitted by animals. Mm-hmm. And it was based on cruel animal trading and treating animals badly and doing the really bad things with animals. Yeah. So if we really are honest, we have to look, if we really get activated by it, let's look at the cause of it. Yeah. And one major cause is that animal treatment issue worldwide. Well, it's not just China, but this case was China especially. The second purpose is for a crisis, I believe. It helps us to change. Now, voluntarily, we never change because, it's comfort zone, it feels okay, pressure is not high enough, why would I change? And that's the good news about the crisis. Now it changes. So people say, okay, now it forces me to rethink. Maybe I'm rethinking my job situation. Maybe I'm rethinking my family issue. Maybe I'm rethinking my whole purpose in life. Maybe I'm rethinking my diet. Maybe I'm rethinking, this is going to get interesting, my relationship to older people, or the relationship to the National Health Service, or the relationship to people who do wonderful jobs, but never ever anybody appreciates them. Yeah. And suddenly maybe that activates us. So that's the second thing. So it causes changes, and the changes is also helpful because I'm not certain, and I think the whole way we're living our lives at the moment, it's not a good thing for Mother Earth. And it's not good for animal treatment, and it's not. So maybe it helps us to think about the changes that might help us. So the second thing: first, it activates. Second, it helps causes changes. And the third one, and I believe that is very important, MindStore stuff now. It strengthens us. Yeah. This is a time of high resistance, and everybody who's done strength training knows the biggest muscle growth comes from the highest resistance. And therefore, the strength grows the most if you have the highest resistance. And so that's why please stay in a good mode. Do the MindStore tools. Do the house on the right bank. Do the visualization. Do the tapping. And you will, and we all get stronger in that process. And your muscles get so strong when you now come out of the crisis. You're going to have 2 times, 5 times stronger muscles about fear, about concerns, about confidence, and it's going to be much easier afterwards when the pressure is off. So I believe there's a time for strengthening, and that means personal development, massive personal development. And you sit, if you're all good old MindStore fans and people who've done the MindStore. You sit you have the tools, you have an unfair advantage already in comparison to 96 or 97% of population in any country, because they don't get activated, they don't think about change, and they don't think about strengthening themselves. So the beauty is nothing new now. You just stick to the MindStore principles.
Yeah, you said that, Klaus, you reminded me that Roger Callahan, when he went back to look at heart rate variability as a measurement of our well-being and about our aliveness,
yes,
he resurrected that when that was long gone, and now it's very popular on apps and stuff. And one of the things he found is when we do the tapping routines, which I explained a few Wednesdays ago, that heart rate variability went up again. And when we meditate, when we use the MindStore techniques, they go up again, our heart rate variability. In other words, we get stronger, we become more alive. And you're right, Klaus, we have all the tools there. We don't really need any more tools, except listening to what Klaus said, particularly about eating whole foods and not eating processed foods. And as he said, go looking for the facts. I kind of teased you today about a fact-finding mission. On this page, if you go and look further down and you look at my timeline, I would urge you to go and listen to that podcast. You can respond to it, whether you're a vegan, a vegetarian, or whether you're carnivore, or anything in between. But you need to hear it, because there are things happening which are pointing us towards solutions, and stuff that's pointing towards why a lot of people are getting out of the hospital who are in there. But it needs a paradigm shift, and it probably needs people like ourselves to go and find those facts and start presenting them to others and sharing them, because those guys with their head down right now working with this, those doctors, God bless them, and all the others, they haven't got time to look at what's going on.
No.
But people are looking. There isn't a conspiracy if you're thinking that. It's just that they don't have the time. But the people who have got the time are finding the way forward, folks. Go and watch that. Go and listen to that podcast and share it and reflect on what Klaus has been saying here. Especially the sunshine. I stopped wearing my sunglasses and I've got react to light glasses. When I go out walking the dog 23 times a day, I've got no glasses on. Why would I do that? I want to get the light into my eyes and expose my body as much as I can. But that's another matter. And eating whole foods, no processed foods. Yeah.
Jack, can I add one thing which I think I want to re-emphasize again, and it could be overlooked at the moment, and that is the alpha state.
Yes, well done.
Let me emphasize this, because there are two nervous systems which we probably have heard but probably forgotten about. It's the sympathetic nervous system, and that's basically the nervous system activating us. And that's the one when we kind of release energy, when we're active, when we speak, when we do things, when we work, and so on. Now, this sympathetic nervous system means that it can only be activated through hormones. So there are specific hormones and activators, and typically it's the stress hormones, it's the adrenaline, the noradrenaline, cortisol. So these stress hormones activate the sympathetic nervous system, which now means, and this is now very important, the body system has now the following task: to run, to fight, to flight, and all of those things. But the body system says, I can only do this if some other functions of the bodies have to stop. And the most important thing that stops is your gut. Your intestines. Your intestine stops. So the sympathetic nervous system shuts down your intestine, which means if there's anything in there, it cannot be processed properly. Even if the best food you eat, it cannot be digested.
Yeah.
Therefore, the evolution God, I don't know, designed another partner which is called the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the calming part, which is the relaxing part. And this is so interesting for us, because we know, Jack, this is called relaxation response. This is how the body relaxes, the body mind. But it also does this, and this is key, it activates your intestines again. So that means now that you're in parasympathetic nervous system, you can digest again. And remember, 70% of your immune system is in your intestine.
Yeah.
And the third one, which is again also very important. So the parasympathetic is for the relaxation, digestion, and now that's crucial, repair the system. The repair system is only in parasympathetic nervous system. This is alpha state. So what does it mean? Only if you're relaxed, not running around, not being stressed by news, can you digest the wonderful food that you hopefully eat, and can you repair anything maybe that in your system at the moment is not working at 100%. This is the beauty of parasympathetic nervous system, which means this is the beauty of alpha. Please, you have the time now. This is the moment to relax extremely, do an hour a day, 6 times 10 minutes, 4 times 15 minutes. Go into that alpha state. You only have benefits. And if you are a spiritual person, and I think we all are to a degree, in that state, I believe you even have access to much bigger sources. Yeah. And why not use it now?
Yeah, this is a fantastic point. And guys, many of you have joined us on the MindStore Coved team. And those of you who haven't yet, and you don't know what I'm talking about, go back to the previous videos and the timeline, watch them, follow it up. request to join. And if some of you requested to join, you haven't got in yet, come back to me via Messenger or an email so that I can, and give me your email address to use with Facebook, and I'll be able to connect you to it. So as Klaus is saying, you can take 4 times 15 minutes, 3 times 15 minutes even, surely now that we're at home. And what happens, of course, is you can sit and say meditate and just be there for yourself, use a mantra and so on, passive meditation. But as I've been teasing you so long now, we are active meditation. So if you join the Coved team, what you do is you still got all the benefits of the alpha level, what Klaus has just explained to you, but you then use your mind, you project that healthy mind you have to someone who has COVID and who is in hospital, and we use our mind to aid them. And by coincidence, and we keep getting them, we'll be doing this for years and years and years, we keep getting results. Not everybody is going to sort of somehow or other be healed by our efforts, because sometimes moving on, passing on is a healing, guys, folks. Always remember that. And as some of the people are talking now about it, a lot of the older people facing the COVID thing, they haven't had the kind of mature conversations with their families. And I've sat with people dying. And the thing is that the people dying maybe sometimes want to, but are terrified to tell their family or friends, or don't know how to. And Klaus, you know that only too well by asking people when they show up, do you want to survive? Can you say a wee bit about that to give peace to people, if you don't mind?
Absolutely. I mean, for us, it's the first question: do you want to live?
Yeah.
And we have to be honest, because sometimes they have to say no, and it's true. It's for them. That's the way for them, and we accept it. But as you said, some family members don't accept it, and they can't go, which is for them even worse. So we believe that everybody has the right, to choose their life, and hopefully they say yes to life. But we ask it, and if they come to our program, we obviously want them to say yes to life. Because some interpretation of cancer is saying no to life, consciously or unconsciously, and we want to ask them very consciously if they see it the same way. And so therefore it's a key question. It's not a pleasant question, but for the people who come to us, they are happy that we ask those questions.
Yeah.
Because especially in families, they are scared to talk about those issues. Yeah. And it has to be addressed, and then the fear goes. If you address things, if you go through them, eventually you realize it wasn't that bad, and it was good that we did it. Yeah.
There's another thing to pick up on that I think has been really helpful today, and that is the notion that that the COVID thing is obviously is providing a purpose for us to all change. But if you heard right at the beginning, and what really inspired me taking the risk to talk about Stuttgart on MindStore platforms, 2,000 people in the room or 200 in the room, sometimes people got up and walked out when I talked about it. They got really angry with me for talking about Klaus and the work that him and Lothar were doing, because they had lost a loved one to cancer, and here I was saying, look, these guys are doing amazing work. And because it wasn't like a doctor or official stuff, somehow or other they were getting really upset. Hear what Lothar did. Lothar went to the people who survived and asked them, what did you do? And what he repeatedly heard was that they made a decision to change something fundamental about their life. The people who are facing up to COVID now, wouldn't it be just amazing if, apart from whatever they're doing for them, and maybe some of the stuff they should listen to in that podcast, to add to the value of it, questions around how are you going to change as a result of this gift that you've been given? This gift you've been given to potentially change. What would you change? And from changing it, will you commit to it? Because what he found, Klaus, was that they not only discovered what it was they had to change, but they actually committed.
They changed, yes.
And this is people who were in stage 4, days to live, and reversed right back out of their cancer. Am I right with that, Klaus? That's really what Lothar said.
And Jack, one thing that I can basically translate, they took leadership. and they were not taking the victim role. They were not saying, I'm the victim of that. Maybe there was to some degree, sometimes into that, poor me, why am I me? But they eventually got out of it. I'm not quite sure how they all did it, but they definitely got out of it, and they took leadership, and they made a decision, Jack. They made a decision and said, I'm accepting this situation, and I give it a purpose. Yeah. So they said, I give that situation a purpose. And one guy, a fantastic guy, Tim, and he said this to me. He said, I got cancer so that I can live longer, a healthier life.
Yeah.
And I said, wow. So basically, nobody told him that. He took that leadership role by saying, I'm not a victim of cancer. Actually, I use this as a motivation to live longer, a healthier life.
Yeah.
And then he said, that's why I got the diet. And he was so happy with Buckwheat diet, by the way.
Yeah.
He was healthy after 1 year, and he continued for 5 years. He said, why would I give it up? I have the best energy in my life that I ever had. I have more clarity. I have more time with my family. He gave up TV. He would spend more time at home. He changed his life, and he said that was the purpose, and that's leadership, Jack. It's simply leadership.
Yeah. I mean, we're kind of running on a wee bit. Maybe we'll risk it. I just thought you get turned off at 1 hour in. But let me just add this for a moment. The last time I was in Stuttgart and was in the centre, I spent 3 weeks. I crossed 2 groups. That was for my own sort of regeneration, my own health. And one of the great things was to watch someone else teach mindfulness type stuff. And the great lady who was there, I don't remember her name right now, but she was running the sessions on mindfulness. And she told the story that 3 times she had been diagnosed with cancer, 3 separate times. And this beautiful lady said, each time it came, it was a gift. Each time it was a gift. You're just in awe of that kind of awareness.
Yeah. So
not a victim, just it was a gift.
Yeah.
Going in to find out, what can I learn? How do I change? What does this mean for me now?
Yes.
Phenomenal. And of course, as I often say, the moment a nation loses its vision, it perishes.
Yeah.
The moment you or I lose our vision, we perish. So still going with the MindStore stuff, getting the 7 goals, getting into the night book, programming your way out of this, and what you're going to do with your life now that it's changed. And there's so much we can do. We can share these, we can do whatever we are doing ourselves with our own families and loved ones, staying positive, suggesting things to do, some of the ideas you got from Klaus, even just to shower, for goodness sake, taking the glasses off out in the sunshine. Klaus, we probably can't run on too long. It's now 9 o'clock your time. But anything else you'd like to finish with? I mean, we're sneaking on a wee bit. I'm sure folks would still like to hear a wee bit, and then we'll close down because it's a long time to ask before.
Definitely, David. Please, everyone. This is a time that still every day is a fantastic day. And if you look at your life and you kind of have to evaluate your life, everything is great for 98%. You're still healthy. You have a wonderful family. You have a home, a warm home. You have access to food. Of course, you can't go out. But this is the time to still appreciate and use gratefulness or gratitude. This is a fantastic time. Please don't allow the fear, the situation around you, which is weird, which is shocking, which is unpleasant. But still, your life is still pleasant. It's still amazing. It's still fantastic. Please put that in the forefront. Don't allow a crisis to destroy the quality of your day. Still make this day today your very best day. And gratitude is the best antidote against fear, greed, envy, worries, because you have so many things. We've just forgotten about them. Pull them out, do a gratitude thing every day at the end of the day with your family and say, what are 3 things we're grateful for? And the next day again and again. And don't give in and don't allow fear to take away that wonderful gift of that day today.
Yeah.
That's my top tip.
Fantastic, Klaus. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed that. I've got lots of guys lined up men and women to sort of do this stuff. And next week is amazing because the Extreme Mindfulness group, MindStore, have been working away on an advanced thing that we've been doing with the COVID-19 thing. We're going to be introducing that next Wednesday, then I'll have a speaker the following Wednesday, then I'll do another bit, and then I'll be a speaker, and we'll just, and next time hopefully split screen. But I think this has worked. I hope it's worked. Maybe you can appreciate that Klaus has given us his time. Klaus, thanks for that. It's been really cool.
And you're doing such a great job, and just appreciate your energy and your enthusiasm and your deeper work, and people are scared of that deeper work, and you do it. So I'm so thankful for that. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Klaus. I appreciate that. Guys, been great having you here again. I'll catch up. This will run again. Somebody asked the question, will this be available? Yes, will be available. And by the way, I got the first one on my YouTube channel. So eventually I'll get them all on the YouTube channel so you can introduce it to your friends who don't want to join Facebook. I understand that. Anyway, guys, have a fantastic week, and I'll see you next Wednesday. And we'll bring Klaus back sometime again in the future. Thanks again, Klaus. Thanks, people.
Bye-bye.
All the best now. Bye-bye.
Bye.